Right.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Well, do you want to get started, Christy?
Yeah, let's get started.
Okay.
Welcome everyone to our final program for 2020. I cannot even believe it. Next month, we'll get to that, but next month is our holiday party, so stay tuned for information on that. But first, I want to thank our sponsors. Thank you. Our platinum sponsors, One Workplace, Washington Holdings, Impact Group, and BBSI. And then our gold sponsors are American Asphalt, Arborwell, Columbia Property Trust, Hayworth, HGA, Iron Construction, Paul and McKay, and Perfection Services. So our sponsors just mean so much to us, and we thank you for sticking with us this year. I have a little something special for all of you at our holiday party, so if you're on the call today, stay tuned for that. And our Cruise Silicon Valley membership, we have a promotion going on from October 1st through the end of the year. And if you renew with us, you'll get 15 months instead of the original 12. And if you refer someone that signs up to be a member, we have a $50 gift card for you. A little fun incentive. For more information on that, if you guys don't have Lee's email, Lee Knight, with One Workplace, one of our platinum sponsors. She's also a director of membership for us, and her crew membership email is crewsvmembership@gmail.com. So you can reach out to her there. And speaking of our holiday party, which I mentioned earlier, it's going to be virtual. It's going to be a lot of fun. I know Jennifer Vender Aaron, she's on the call today. She's been really heavily planning this. It's going to be a masquerade, ugly masquerade. So wear your ugly masks and it'll be fun. And instead of our ugly sweaters from last year, we'll have virtual games. We'll have some prizes. We'll have, I don't want to give too much away, but we're going to have some fun promotions along the way. So you guys will see that. But really, our holiday party this year, we didn't have a wine and awards night in August. So we'll be honoring our award winners for Cruise Silicon Valley at this event. And generally every holiday party, we raise money for, for our scholarships, for our local scholarships, for our local students who are trying to navigate their career and their life in commercial real estate. And last year we honored 3 students who have still continued with us and engaged with us throughout this year. So we thank you so much for providing those dollars last year. Really was wonderful. So we're doing that again this year. We're raising money for them. So in saying that, we're seeking auction items. Now, if your company is looking to sponsor and they want to sponsor an auction item, we're only going to have 4 or 5. So this is an opportunity to kind of really get your company's name out there, or your name, however you'd like. But if you are interested in donating an auction item, please reach out to Sabine Zimmerhansel. You can reach out to myself. You can reach out to Nate, anyone on the board, whoever you know, just reach out and we're happy to guide you along that way. So thank you so much. And next up, we actually have a new member. We have some new members, but one of them, her name's Jessica, and Nate's gonna pull up her video shortly so you guys can learn a little bit more about her. Normally when we have programs, we love to have them say a little something at our luncheon, but with virtual, I'm happy that we're able to still introduce them. So without further ado, welcome.
Here we go. Let's see if this works. Meet Jessica Rose, everybody.
Rose, principal of Rose Project Management, also known as RPM. I started my company about 1.5 years ago. Prior to that, I was with the CRE Group, which is a division of Newmark. Not the present sentence. I was at Federal Realty for about 5 years, doing all the project management for the retail at Santana Row and multiple other properties that we owned and managed. And I started my career at TrueMark Commercial I was there for about 13 years. I did ground up development, repositioning, and a lot of entitlement work there. That's where I really got my feet wet and learned the business. So I'm going on about 20 years of project management experience. I absolutely love our industry, and I am very happy to be a member of Crew again. I hope to meet a lot of new women in my business. Also reconnect with some old connections that I've lost connection with over the years. And I really love what Crew does, especially the mentorship for young women who may not understand that this is a opportunity for them. So I hope to meet a lot of you soon in person, and until then I hope you are all well and staying healthy and safe. Thank you.
Thanks, Nate, for bringing that up. And I want to say too, if you guys haven't checked out Jessica's article in the Business Journal, go check it out. It's really great. It's a wonderful article on her and her company and what she's done. All righty. Well, I will pass on the baton.
Right, well, we're gonna get started, get our slide up. Make sure everybody can see it. Perfect. All right. Well, welcome everyone. We're excited to share the Crew Network 2020 benchmark study. This is Crew Network's fourth benchmark study that was conducted to measure progress for women over the last 15 years. And one thing that is new to this study is the additional research on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. One of the main goals of this research is to share this information to help guide women, Black, Indigenous, and people of color to advance their careers in the industry. This study is a benefit that Crew provides and wants the findings to be shared with every commercial real estate company leader, so they have the data and insight to take action and advance in diversity, equity, and inclusion in their company and also in our industry. So thank you for taking the time to join us today. I'm Kelly Leaños. I'm with Deacon Construction. We are a general contractor focused on building relationships in addition to building great projects and beautiful spaces. We specialize in commercial office, retail, healthcare, industrial, and multifamily. And I have been in the commercial real estate industry for over 25 years, always with a passion for design and construction. And in addition, I have a heart to lift women up and have been a member of Crew for over 10 years. I've been fortunate to have served on the board in Silicon Valley, and I'm excited to be the incoming president-elect for Crew East Bay. 5 years ago, I shared the results of the 2015 benchmark study at Elevate, and now we get to share the 2020 findings with you all today.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer Vander Arend, Marketing Director at HMH. HMH is a multidiscipline site design firm located in San Jose with a new office in Central Valley, and we work on both private and public projects throughout the Bay Area. Our portfolio of work is diverse and includes multifamily residential, commercial, mixed use, TOD, and more, with our most recent project being Google Downtown West. I'm currently leading Crew Silicon Valley's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force team, and I'm also the communications lead for UCrew. I believe we each have an important role in continuing to advance all women globally. We can be a positive force of good while improving and evolving the paths of leadership for the next generation of Crew members.
Awesome, thanks, Jennifer. So for today's session, we're going to be going through the overview of the benchmark study, the top key takeaways, and continue the dialogue in our breakout rooms. We would like this presentation to be interactive, so feel free to ask questions or comments along the way.
Thanks, Kelly. So every 5 years, Crew Network conducts a benchmark study to measure progress for women in the industry, and for the first time, as Kelly mentioned, in 2020 to benchmark diversity in commercial real estate. Crew Network, which stands for Commercial Real Estate Women, is a 12,000 member global business network and the industry's leading producer of research on gender and diversity. The underwriters for this benchmark study include Capital One, ICSC, which stands for International Council of Shopping Centers, NMHC, and SIOR. These industry partners generously support Crew Network's research and advancing greater parity and diversity in commercial real estate. This year's report summarizes key findings from all 4 Crew Network benchmark studies over the last 15 years and provides new insight into other aspects of the industry. The study introduced 8 new questions to examine diversity and workplace culture. A total of 2,930 industry professionals across all commercial real estate sectors participated in this survey, which was overall a 34% increase from 2015 to 2020. And that study range was from January 2nd to March 31st when they participated in this study. 8 commercial real estate associations, shown on the right, also partnered with Crew Network to distribute the study to their members and constituents. A few key notes about the study participants: roughly 82% identified as women, 17% identified as men, 13% identified as BIPOC, which stands for Black, Indigenous, and People of Color, and 3% identified as LGBTQIA, which stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual, queer questioning, intersex, or asexual. Diversity is always important. We are always looking for support and participation in these surveys from men to provide a more robust data set.
So I know that was a lot of information, numbers, and everything else. So what we've done is we've taken this presentation and basically made 4 key topics to discuss and go over. So don't worry, we're not going to ask you to memorize any numbers that you just heard. So the first topic that we're going to go over is the topic of compensation. And to start that out, we're going to do a poll question. So there we are with the first poll question. So guess what the total compensation gap is between men and women? That includes everything: salaries, bonuses, and commission.
All right, the responses are coming in fast and furious. Here we go, everyone. Ooh, interesting to see where we're going here.
Let's see.
A few of you have not voted. I'm going to wait 20 more seconds. Let's go, people.
Yes. Give it a guess. What do you think? So what is the total compensation gap? So there is a gap. Do you think it's between 5 and 10%, 10 and 15%, 15 and 20%, or more than 20%?
Here we go.
All right.
This is where we went.
Yeah. So the results that you guys guessed was primarily between 15 and 20%. The real answer is above 20%, and it's actually 34% is the compensation gap between. Well, that's in more in the C-suite. So, all right. So, consistent with the last 3 studies, the 2020 study finds a substantial compensation gap between women and men. And overall, the difference in total average earnings, which includes salaries, bonuses, and commission combined, is 34%. And unfortunately, that was an 11% increase from 2015. So we're definitely moving in the wrong direction. Crew Network took a deeper dive into the study data to identify what factors may be causing the gap to widen. Some of the reasons for this widening gap could be women are not getting access to high-profile clients or the most profitable projects and deals. I'd love to hear if anyone has any reactions or thoughts about that, or if we feel like this is accurate in Silicon Valley. Do you think that we're doing better or worse than that 34%? So I don't know if anyone has any comments. So we'll move on to the next slide. The next section we're going to talk about is the base salary gap. So that's basically, on average, women make 90 cents for every dollar that men make in fixed salaries. So that basically is a 10% salary gap. But the gap is even greater for women of color. Black women make 85 cents, Asian women make 86 cents, and Hispanic Latinx women make 80 cents for every dollar that men earn. So what are our thoughts on this, and what causes the gap, and how do we fix it? I think those are all things that we need to be asking ourselves, and discussing, continually, because if we don't do something about it, it's not going to improve.
Yeah, and Molly had an interesting comment just around kind of that, where that gap gets really big in the C-suite, and just it's interesting to think about kind of why that might be. I mean, I tend to think of the C-suite as where there's less of a gap, but that's obviously not the case.
Yeah, it's definitely not the case. It's a much wider gap as you progress. It's kind of like in more entry level, it's more even, and then it really widens throughout advancement. Right now, that's the way it is.
It looks like Brian has a thought.
I do. I'm interested, and it may be too soon to know this, but with COVID and job loss, if the proportion of males and females in our industry lost jobs proportionately or disproportionately, and I think, quite frankly, the follow up to that is I'd wonder how the rehiring and strength as we start coming out of this proportionate, how that looks, if this is one of those, hey, it didn't look good, but this is our opportunity to bring back the right people.
Right. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see if COVID makes any difference in what's happening in the future. Hopefully it gives you a chance to reset, and hopefully reset in the right way. I do think that there, is a huge new focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, which we've never seen before in the industry. Hopefully that trickles into real data that you can see in the next, 5-year benchmark study.
Right. And
Yeah.
to go on to Brian's point too, it's interesting to see, with all of the children at school, specifically here in California, like locally. I mean, we're still they're still learning from home. So what's that going to do with who stays home to take, to make sure that they're learning and they're at school? It's interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I think that's definitely an important thing to consider, because I think in some ways it's going to set, it tends to be women are the ones that are at home, and kind of taking on the brunt of everything. Nothing against men, but it just kind of seems to happen that way. So I know a lot of women have, quit their job because they can't manage everything, or they're trying to manage everything and it's affecting their performance or ability.
Yeah, I want to add to that. I have a friends that are a couple that the husband stays home, and they chose that based on her earning more.
That's good.
And I think that your study that shows this earning salary pay gap is probably easy for folks to point to and just say, hey, that's what it is. So, if it's a male dominated industry and men are reluctant to stay home with the kids, this is something that they would continue to push, because essentially they don't want to do the hard work. Coward, sorry, that was my 2 cents.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Anna.
well, and we'll start to later in this presentation. There are some interesting trends that are happening from just newer generations coming into this industry that are, wanting to have, pay, equity, or wanting to have diversity, or really asking for a lot more from the leaders, and are ultimately going to be part of that C-suite. So that's something that's also interesting too, to see if not only just from obviously the COVID stuff happening, but also too, just new generations coming into this industry wanting a lot more.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the dialogue, guys. That's great. Let's move on to the next section. So we're talking about the disparity in bonus and commission. So when you look at commission and bonuses, the gender gap is much larger across all sectors. So on average, women earn 56% less than men from commission and bonuses. So white women earn 51% less from commission and bonuses, while Black women earn 71% less, Asian women earn 73% less, and Hispanic Latinx earn 74% less than their male counterparts. there's several dynamics that could lead to the disparity in commission earnings. Some factors may be related to gender bias in hiring or disparities in commission sharing arrangements. Women may not be getting access to high profile clients or the most profitable projects and deals. And other factors may be self-driven. You know, how do we change this going forward? And what is our responsibility as women, and how can we leverage support from our male counterparts? You know, I think that we want the support from men, but also I feel like, you know, as myself, I know I don't really fight for myself, you know, and I think that women tend to do that. And I think that's, you know, that's pretty common. I think for most women, it's like, okay, if you want to give me that bonus, that's great. Thank you so much. You know, I mean, and you don't even know that, you know, maybe you should be fighting for more than that.
Kelly, sorry, but in the chat, there was some discussion earlier about this concept of the access to those higher profile deals, you know, and I just think that's, you mentioned that in your talk, and I think that's really interesting to think about maybe why that is and how that changes. It seems to be on Anna and Joanne both kind of brought it up.
I think that's really true. And I'm sure Anna and Joanne have both dealt with that, because what happens is the big project comes in and suddenly they want to bring in the guys with the suits and kind of like, all right, let's go impress this client. And so, you know, there are some more, we were talking earlier, there are some companies that are much more forward thinking, like Google, right? You know, I think that, you know, Nathan, you were talking about a project you're working on with Google at the city, and that there's a nice group of women that are coming as the leaders, not just men. So it's just finding the companies that, you know, are forward thinking in that way. Well, thanks, guys. Well, let's go on to compensation by sector. As you can see, the average compensation by sector graphic, healthcare and industrial real estate are the two sectors with the largest income gaps between men and women. So both are at 37%, which just is amazing to me. That's a very large income gap to me. And the highest average compensation per sector for women is multifamily. So 161,000 is kind of the average compensation for women. And the lowest compensation by sector for women is in the public sector. But I'm struck that all sectors have a gap of over 25%. So how do we gain more equity for the commercial real estate industry? What do we do?
Personally, from my experience, it's the education side of things, educating people on, in an interview, how to, one, research the right salary and for their role and their experience, and not be afraid to say what they want. Because when I interview, I will, and I've been keeping my own data, but when I interview 90%, 91% of women that I interview, when I get to the part of the question where it comes to salary, it's always, well, what's your range? What's your salary? What are you thinking for me? It's never I need this a year to live. I need this. So for me, in my experience, it's the education part. And, you know, how early should we educate women to really get that confidence and knowledge in finding out what, you know, what that right answer should be.
Right.
And confident about it. So that's, so I have been really trying to educate our employees and our, you know, even with UCrew, with what Crew's been doing, and trying to educate those students at that level. But yeah, there's a long way to go. It's,
I think
If I could make a comment, this is Anna. With Crew, we've been able to more and more over the years get an idea of what is standard or what is askable for compensation. Being a 100% commission broker, we don't know, you know, we don't talk about what we earn. We don't talk about our splits. We don't talk about these things. So when you go in to interview at a new firm, you're going off industry standards that could be, you know, 15 years outdated, or more focused on a newbie versus, you know, what the value we bring to something, and not raising our hand, not standing up and going, no, I want this split. not that split. And I think until we get a little bit more open and transparent about what we all have the opportunity to earn, we're still going to get stuck with that.
Yeah.
It's the norm to do it this way. It's the norm to start at this.
Yeah, I think whatever we're doing, I mean, I'm just looking at this data, we're definitely under asking. So that's one thing is, definitely looking at what you need to do. So anyways, we actually have a really good breakout session that we're going to do really fast. And it's actually on this topic. So,
All right, so here we go. I have the breakout button open, and I'm going to do, what should I do, Kelly, 3?
Yeah. But the question, so basically we're hoping to break out and just basically it gives everyone a chance to talk and just talk about the shifts that you've seen in compensation at your firm, and maybe what approaches you've had, you've used, just like Christy gave some great advice on how to, tools you can use to help you in a salary negotiation. So that's what we're going to talk about. Discussion. I'm sure we could talk much longer, but we have more breakouts, so don't worry.
That's true. Yeah. Awesome. Well, so for the next topic, we're going to be going over discussing what career growth in CRE industry looks like. Where has it increased? Where has it decreased? And or where has it stayed the same? And so we have actually a poll question. So have the ranks of women at the C-suite and CRE increased, dropped, or remained the same since the last benchmark study done in 2015? So A is increased, B is dropped, and C is remained the same. And then if you want to pull up that poll.
I'm on it. Here we go.
Okay.
Oops, I almost put us into breakout rooms again.
No
Sorry.
worries. Well, that was
We got you busy.
Operator error.
yeah.
Here we go. Sorry, everybody.
Oh, you're good.
About who knows?
Jennifer, I can see your screen and your next slide screen, not the presentation mode.
All right. Here we go. Who's ready? One more second. All righty.
All right. You want to share the answer, Jennifer?
Yes. Actually, hold on. I'm going to stop share. Learning technology. So what do you guys think it is? Anyone want to speak up?
Well, it says, oh, you can't see it. It says that basically 60% said that it remains the same. 20% said it dropped and 20% said it increased.
So we have a lot of people who think the status quo is where we are versus 5 years ago. So let's see if
the
that's
5 years
true.
ago, the number of people in C-suite have stayed the same. So let's move on to that next slide if you're ready, Jennifer.
Yeah, I had to just kind of toggle and unshare and then reshare, going between the two.
All right.
Okay. So as the poll shows, and also as the screen shows, as you can see the graph to the right, the C-suite has your...
We don't see your screen.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Share screen.
I love Zoom, but I feel like I'm always getting lost in the menu options. I don't know if anyone else feels like that.
Yes. I wish we could
I-
have an
I
assistant.
finally figured out how to share audio. So for Jessica's thing, I was able to do that. Okay, here we go.
All right,
Yay!
great.
It's
And then go to
beauteous.
Well, now I want to show just the only screen that I'm on. There we go. Present current slide. Okay. Now can you guys see it?
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right. So as you guys can see from the graph, it stayed the same. since 2010 at 9%. And there's been a decrease as well in the SVP/partner level by 5%. One thing that I actually thought was really interesting from this is that at the entry level, mid-level, and senior level, those all increased. And also too, it's proportionally a larger representation of women within these different roles. So I actually wanted to pose a question to you guys. Is anyone surprised by this? Does anyone have any kind of thoughts or opinions on this, or what were some of your reactions?
I'm not shocked. I do this program called the ACE Mentor Program, and we mentor high school students from 9th through 12th grade. And more than 50% of the students have been females since I've been involved over the last 13 to 15 years. And it's really, and minorities as well. So I'm not shocked, since those are the folks graduating trade schools, graduating from colleges, going into our profession, and essentially they've got a pathway and they've got mentors. I don't know if that contributes to it, but the percentages are there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. And kind of alluding to what we were talking about earlier in this presentation is that, there is this kind of generational shift that's happening, as they start to move up in the ranks. A lot of these data numbers I'd be interested in just seeing, 10 years from now, how much this has changed or not changed, just because I think that the percentages are quite large in the senior, mid-level, and entry level. So naturally that those groups are going to start to move up in the corporate ladder. So it'd be interesting to see kind of what the study results say a few decades from now, if not sooner, hopefully. So for this one, women are more likely than men to report that their compensation or career advancement has been adversely affected by their marital status or the need to care for family. These percentages have really remained virtually unchanged since 2015. And obviously with COVID, this has increased the demands on women working remote. Has anyone been impacted by COVID? I feel like it would be a resounding yes. Everyone would raise their hand.
I think it's added definitely a lot of challenges.
Yes, agreed.
I've noticed that some of my employees the women automatically assume that they're the only ones that can stay home with the kids. And some of that is because we feel like we should, right? But men have the same COVID-19 benefits, if that's the right word, from employers as women do oftentimes. So in a few cases I have, mentioned isn't there an opportunity that your husband could also, help you with this, because they're going crazy. They're trying to do their full-time job and work with kids. So I think sometimes we just automatically still assume the mom takes that role, and it's just an internal thing we have to come to grips with as well. And it's hard. My husband stayed home for years, and that's a weird, hard dynamic too. So anyway, just thought I'd throw that out.
No, that's a very good point. In 2015, Crew Network began asking respondents to identify the highest level that they aspired to reach in their careers. As you can see, the results indicated that men, much more than women, aspire to reach the C-suite level on the left graphic, with men representing the blue, women representing the red. This is what is called Aspiration Gap. In 2020, with the growth of women at the entry, mid, and senior levels, as we just discussed, are wanting to really aspire to that C-suite level. This will only continue to increase the diversity and provide better representation for future generations. What is everyone's kind of initial reactions to the metrics that they're seeing on the screen? Does that seem like it's in alignment? Do you agree, disagree? What have you seen?
I'm not sure how to read this.
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. So really the goal of this is showing how many men versus women want to aspire to go to the C-suite level. And basically the lighter red color, so the pink color is the 2015. And then the darker red color is 2020. So you can kind of see the comparisons. So for example, on the left one at the C-suite, you have 28% of females in 2015 wanted to aspire to the C-suite level versus an increase now for 2020 at 32%. But you can still see that it is lower percentage-wise versus men. But, you know, again, kind of going back to that last slide that we had shown of an increase of women representation and also year over year of women in the entry level, mid-level, and senior level are really starting to want to continue to move up. And that is that generational shift that's happening, which coincides with wanting to aspire to the C-suite level. The other items on this graph show the comparison for SVP versus partner, senior level, self-employed, and mid-level. So it is really interesting just to see from past slides to this slide to see that shift and change.
I agree. I felt like when I finally clicked with what this slide is showing, it was fascinating because it's really talking about that, you know, ambition, and there is some progress being made here, right? More women are saying, hey, I aspire to the top, but which is great, but it's still obviously trailing men. So at that top level, that's just really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that, you know, like in the partner level, it's more balanced, but
Yeah,
you know, not as many women see themselves as an opportunity or the ability to be in the C-suite. They don't see that in their future.
Which brings us to our next breakout question. So does your company have programs in place to provide equitable paths to leadership, such as gender diversity training programs, mentoring, et cetera? So we'd be interested in just kind of hearing your guys' thoughts.
all right. And then how many minutes do we want to go?
Oh,
Probably
I guess 5
4.
minutes?
Yeah.
5?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. I'm reshuffling. Is that okay? So we're going to
Yeah.
get new
Okay.
people.
Mhm.
All right, let's do it.
Thanks.
The information.
Sure.
How was everyone's Q&A? Did anyone have any good insights that they want to share?
Well, I learned a lot about Michelle Godot's company and all the amazing things they're doing.
If I may add, Brian Glick was just telling us that his company does not have a formal program. I just want to just add that, you know, it's so difficult because no one wants to talk about race and inequality. It's a hard conversation to have. I think that, you know, more firms need to just get out there and start just having the conversation, because I think that's the biggest thing, is starting to just talk about it and know that there are discrepancies across the board.
Yeah, no, that's a really great point. And it's hard too, because there's also just, it's in some ways unique to per each company culture as well, on like how much you can kind of push those dials and have those types of conversations. You have to figure out, you know, what are those frameworks that you can kind of operate in, and who are those people that want to have those conversations. And it's hard. It's, you know, again, you know, we've only, for this benchmark study report, you know, it's only this year that they put in, you know, diversity kind of metrics in there. So I think we're at the very beginning stages, and that's, you know, again, you know, to your point, Michelle, of just really starting to have those conversations. They're hard conversations to have, but they're necessary.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I wish we had more time to, you know, dive even further into each of these topics, but we have a little bit more to present. So we're going to jump back into our presentation. And our next topic is going to be on career satisfaction. And we're going to start out with a poll question as well. So Nathan's going to get that queued up for us. Question number 3. Has your work-life balance increased, decreased, or remained the same since COVID-19? Interesting. Looks like we've got, oh, decreased is going up,
It
60.
is growing.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you can
Jennifer,
all see as it comes in.
I can see it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I think because we're co-present,
Oh, you're
maybe.
co-hosts.
Yeah. Hey, Jennifer,
All right, here we
you have
go.
this ready to go too?
Yeah.
Oh, decreased 67%. 22% increased, 11% remain the same, no different. Interesting, very interesting. I think it depends on the dynamics of where you are in your life and
And I
responsibility.
think the dynamics of your home life, if you have all the kids at home, that definitely is going to mess up your balance.
For sure. Or
Yeah.
just a messy husband, you know.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to get into our next slide.
And needy dogs.
Yeah, we don't have it up yet.
I don't have dogs.
I know I have teeny dogs.
Are you able to see the slide, Kelly?
No.
I see the slide.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, I don't see it. Oh, there it is. Oh, good. Okay, great.
Okay.
All right. Let's see here. Okay. So this is the section on success and compensation. So women's career satisfaction and perception of success decreased across all industry specializations in 2020. Women who consider themselves very successful dropped from 61% to 56%, while men's regarded success grew from 64% to 68%. And then also there's two different slides. There's how you feel successful. Oh, go back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, how you feel successful. And then satisfaction, very satisfied. So women's satisfaction with their success level also dropped from 59% to 55%. Yeah, while men's satisfaction with career success grew from 60% to 63%. Yeah, and while I'm very happy that men's career fulfillment has grown,
We're so thrilled for the men.
I'm happy about that. But I'm also disheartened that women have taken a step backward in the last 5 years. That's kind of, I feel like, consistent throughout this whole thing is we really haven't progressed that far. And there could be several reasons for this decrease. Women have received lower pay, fewer opportunities for upward mobility, less access to leadership roles than their male counterparts. Women could be growing increasingly frustrated, being unable to reap the financial benefits of a thriving industry as much as men. So let's move on to the next section, work-life balance. So while women's satisfaction with work-life balance increased only slightly, there's an 8% increase here. So, and men being very satisfied with their work-life balance. And this study was administered pre-COVID, so I think that there's probably a little bit of a change that might have been done. So work-life balance has been an important factor for both men and women, but it'd be interesting to see what happens, you know, in the next one to see if there is a change in expectation. I feel like that's kind of true anyways. So women's satisfaction with work-life balance increased only slightly this year. Men have become more likely to report being very satisfied with work-life balance in the last 3 benchmark studies. So they keep improving their work-life balance where we're making small steps. So this is the slide on barriers to success in commercial real estate. The top 5 self-reported barriers to success have not changed for women since 2015, with the top 3 being lack of company, mentor, sponsor, lack of promotion and opportunity, and gender discrimination. And then for men, the top 3 from 2015 to 2020 were lack of an undergraduate degree, lack of promotion opportunity, or the wrong, poor choice of an employer, or work-life balance. This really emphasizes the importance, I think, of mentorship and finding a sponsor for you, an advocate for you. I think that's the only way to kind of grow, and that's obviously that's been consistent between 2015 and 2020. But, we wanted to also mention and encourage you to be involved in our wonderful mentorship program that we have at Crew Silicon Valley. You don't need to be a member to take part, and we suggest you reach out to Alyssa Chalklin for more information on this program. So now we have another breakout session, and this is about mentoring. So what mentoring opportunities are offered within your firm? What career benefits have you experienced as far as being part of Crew, and how is that being communicated back to your firm, to our C-suite, to increase involvement and support? So we have 20 minutes left. I feel like our last breakout was too short. It was my fault. So maybe we could go a little bit longer on this one. Maybe 7 minutes. What do you think? Is that too much?
Is there a way to keep the question up there somewhere? I'm not sure. Or maybe I need to, okay, never mind. I answered my own question.
Okay.
I'll put my view on the side.
All
Nate,
right.
that was a really quick 7 minutes.
I know.
Not enough time.
So did anyone want to share anything that they discussed in their meeting or in the breakout room?
Well, I didn't speak up on mine, but what career benefits experience being part of Crew years ago, starting to go to the conventions and meeting other women and listening to different panels speak about their highs and their lows, their risks and rewards.
Mm.
And finding that it was a very safe place to ask questions, especially early on when I moved to the Valley. I didn't know a lot of people, and especially didn't know a lot of women enough to feel comfortable saying, I don't know this, or where should I find this? And then being part of Crew Network, finding those people and getting that comfort level to where now I'm around here, I know I can call Nancy, I can call Sarah, and going, oh my God, what the hell? I need help on this. And it's okay. I think that takes a lot of, for women, it's a little harder to acknowledge that you don't know in a field of men who seem to know everything.
Or at least act like they do.
Yeah, that's it. And it's acting, yeah, and it could be acting for sure, but it's,
Yeah.
we don't know that until we know
That's
it.
true. That's a good point.
True. All right, should we move on?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, so our fourth and final topic today is diversity. Again, as mentioned before earlier and multiple times in the presentation, this is a first-time benchmark study integration. And it's really understanding where we are at within the CRE industry in regards to diversity and culture.
Last poll question.
Last poll question. So, does your company have diversity, equity, and inclusion, also known as DEI, initiatives? Yes, no, or unsure?
Well,
All right, 5 seconds, get your votes in.
yeah, just another.
Drum roll.
Recount.
This isn't like Arizona counting
Yeah.
votes here.
Who mailed it in? Well, this looks pretty good.
I'm actually curious if the four yeses, if they've initiated those this year.
Yeah, I'd be interested too.
Yeah. So did you share the results?
I did,
Yeah.
yes.
Good. Okay. Yeah. So
At
there's
Transwestern, we've had this, has been an ongoing conversation for a number of years, but definitely this year, you're finding it, I'm seeing it emails so much more often, but we've had it a part of the company for a while.
That's awesome. Does anyone else that answered yes want to share?
I'll say that I work for the city of San Jose, and actually our HR department is launching something this year that they're calling employee resource groups, which are recognized by the city administration, but they're employee-led groups of employees who share an interest in diversity. And so it's interesting. It's going to be an employee-led. I'm not sure why they're doing that, but I'm interested to see kind of how it evolves.
That's awesome. All right.
So I've seen, this is Joanne, I've seen a renewed interest since Black Lives Matters in diversity and initiative, not necessarily initiatives, but an interest in looking outward in the company for ways we could be better. So it's a good thing. But I'm also noticing that a small part of the organization is participating. It's it's not mandatory.
Thanks for
They're all
sharing that.
good.
That's great.
Yeah, thank you. And
Yeah.
it's good too to, again, a lot of these are just going to continue to be, back to Michelle's point of having those conversations and just getting that ball rolling is really the biggest and first step, most importantly. So it's really cool to hear that those organizations are starting to do that. So as mentioned before, kind of looking at the diversity in commercial real estate, overall, commercial real estate professionals don't work in very diverse environments. Basically, 30% of respondents reported that 5 to 15% or more of the professionals in their workplace are Black, Indigenous, or people of color, also known as BIPOC. However, though, what's been actually really interesting, and even just what you guys also recently said, is more than half of the respondents reported a culture shift regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion, mostly due to mandates from leadership, from staff, and also external pressures from the industry. What was really interesting with this is that the barriers to success for women and BIPOC are pretty similar, and that includes lack of promotion opportunity, lack of a company mentor or sponsor, gender discrimination, and choice to maintain work-life balance. The exception was number 5. So for BIPOC, a barrier to success is limited access to decision makers. I would be actually interested in just seeing what everyone's thoughts were on this in regards to kind of that list. And has anyone ever experienced these barriers to success?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to maybe elaborate a little bit more, or if you feel comfortable?
Well, gender discrimination, one of my first opportunities as a broker here in the Valley, yeah, I had to beg for my commission check, and the president basically figured, since I was married, what did I need the money for? It didn't matter that I earned it.
Yeah.
And I chose to maintain work-life balance versus working, 80 hours a week, and definitely didn't have access to the decision makers. It's like a closed club that I wasn't allowed to get invited into.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And, I can only imagine how challenging that must have been. And I know for myself too, I definitely have also experienced this as well. For me, the one that was probably the strongest was the lack of company mentor or sponsor. I found that my success in moving, up the corporate ladder was directly tied to knowing if I have someone at the top that was supporting me. If I didn't, then it was a constant uphill battle. So it's tough. Has anyone else ever experienced any barriers to success that they feel comfortable in sharing?
Yeah, I will say that actually it was pretty recent. I was bidding on we were going after a project, and the team that I had put together was all women, all of different color, and there wasn't a man on, not intentionally, but there wasn't a man on the team. And so when we presented to the client, we didn't get the project, but the feedback we received was very honest feedback, and it was that there was no man on the team. And I didn't really know how to answer that immediately, and I just it shocked me. It took me about a minute, And I couldn't believe they even said that. But this client was coming from a different country and wasn't used to having a full woman team. So it was interesting. It was a really interesting glimpse into, I mean, it's happened before, but this was recent. So it was a little shocking to me.
Well, and it puts you in a position of, you know, how much do you back down?
Yeah. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, Anna, I muted you instead of
Yeah,
myself.
that's right. How much do we back away or give up of ourselves in order to be able to get an opportunity? I mean, you know, you had a perfect team. Putting a man on it would have not broken the team at all, but you had a perfect team the way it was. And it, you know, and you were put into a position of, well, I'm being forced to do something that is, you know, going to change the dynamic of the team in order to get an opportunity to get business.
I'm curious if you responded to that, Christy.
Well, I asked if there was an opportunity to, you know, talk to the client about how my team was extremely qualified and that we would 100% take care of them as if, you know, as a team and not as anything else. And they said, no, there was no opportunity. It was pretty much done.
Oh
So
my goodness.
it was a learning experience. I mean, I wouldn't change anything. And I actually don't want to work with that client if that's the way that they want
Right.
to go about things. So in a way I dodged a bullet, but still it was an eye opener, and it was pretty sad.
So maybe they just need to keep hearing from you though, and you need to be the one to win them over, because if everybody, you know, kind of walks the other way with them, I mean, when I first started out, I do mostly construction, and I would have to take a man, otherwise nobody would listen to me. And I did it for a while, and then, you know, you finally gain the confidence to speak your mind, but you have to sometimes play their game until you can win them over. I don't know. Maybe don't give up. I don't know.
Nope, I will not. Absolutely not. Yeah.
So I find that I'm the only woman in the room many times with a group of men. And usually the conversation is like, aside from me. And I'm viewed as the assistant and the note taker, or, you know, it's relegated to, you know, lesser position. So that's discouraging and upsetting sometimes. And I try to not let that affect my enthusiasm, but when I go home, it does. It bothers me that men still have that attitude. And so anyway, that's my experience.
Yeah, and it's hard too, because ultimately you just want to feel seen and heard at the end of the day. That's all it is at the end of the day. Yeah.
Well, it's
Well,
1
that's a nice
o'clock.
thing too. Oh, hello? Someone say something?
Yeah, I was saying it's 1 o'clock. This has been such a
Oh,
great discussion. I
got
know
it.
we have
Okay.
maybe 2 more slides.
Yeah, I can go proceed forward. So for the first time, the study asked respondents if they experienced sexist behavior offensive to them in the workplace, such as being exposed to conversations or behavior that can be construed as sexist or offensive. Women were much more likely to report that they experienced this at least once in the past year. So 45% of women versus 20% of men. 7% of women and 3% of men reported being sexually harassed at least once in the past year. So it's interesting because these metrics are showing that HR trainings have improved company protocols, but that there's really been little room in regards to better improving and defining how to just build awareness of offensive behavior within the workplace. Through Crew Network's research on diversity, pay parity, unconscious bias, and more, we know that the industry is recognizing the business benefits of bringing diverse talent to our workplaces. We know that the inclusion of different people based on gender, race, ethnicity, and sexual orientation is a business advantage. Companies that prioritize diversity are outperforming others, including greater earnings, better governance, greater innovation, and more opportunity. So why has progress been so slow? To continue to increase DEI in commercial real estate, organizational leaders must continue to better understand the issues presented in the study, as well as treat resolving them as a business imperative. Greater DEI starts at the very, very top of your organization. Here are 5 action items for industry and company leaders to increase their DEI in commercial real estate. Action item 1, top leaders must be invested, involved, measured, and held accountable. Number 2, hire an external consultant to recognize gaps, barriers, unconscious biases, take action to overcome it, and put accountability measures in place. Number 3, conduct employee pay equity tests regularly. Number 4, focus on intentionally recruiting a diverse workforce and partner with universities and organizations to seek out that diverse talent. And number 5, partner with Crew Network to advance the industry to be more equitable for all. Gender parity and gender DEI, this isn't a passing fad. It is an investment in our companies, our future, and our culture. It can really no longer just be lip service. The industry must take action now. Here's what you can do. First, share the study with your company leaders, heads of HR, and your employees. Second, download the study or request copies from crewnetwork.org. The Crew Network and Silicon Valley chapter are taking the DEI initiative very seriously. As we move into 2021, the SV chapter will be working with the San Francisco and East Bay chapter on a Bay Area Crew DEI initiative in providing educational opportunities, webinars, DEI training, and more. Stay tuned for future updates and events. Be sure to follow Crew SV DEI on LinkedIn as well. If you have any questions, please reach out to the Crew SV team, and thank you guys again for joining us today.